Greetings. Hey, it's Susie Jervich. Have you ever had one of those mornings or one of those days where you've got you've got something specifically to do, and every time you approach it, it's just not working out? Um, and it's like, I don't know, it's on my goals to do today, and I simply can't do it. So I wanted to talk about that because a lot of times when we look at the Akashic records when I'm working with people, we find patterns that show up where things are out of alignment. And what I mean by that is that things that they typically do aren't working right now, maybe never did, but they're beginning to notice that every time I attempt to do it, it's not right. Oh god, and I'm not saying everything turns out right for me, but I know that when I set an intention, especially with my work, with my writing, and my practice with meditation and things like that, that I'm pretty much on target with it. And then today, it was so funny because I woke up early and I had a whole bunch of new information that came through in my dream state, and I'm like, it's so powerful. So I sat down to do a podcast, and I did one, and the sound was so off. It's almost like the technology was like going, "We are not going to do this today." And then I did something else. I thought, well, maybe I'm supposed to write it because the writing is really great for me. Then I found that that wasn't working either, So I thought, well, maybe there's some lesson here for me. So why don't I attempt to do it this way through doing a video and just acknowledging that when we have a goal or something that we're intending to do, that sometimes it's just not the right time or the right way to do that. So it's moving into different perspectives of getting things done. And that's actually what the information was that came in this morning. And so this is really funny. But yesterday I went to um, the town I'm living in has a lot of retired people. And so to get a really good lecture or good class, sometimes I have to go to the senior places. And so I go there. And and I noticed in my planner that I put seniors or something like that. And then I decided that I could do an upgrade on how I look at, people that are growing, growing, growing. And so I came up with the name Wisdom Keepers. And that gives a lot of dignity to seniors who are um, out there. And I think the word seniors kind of, I don't know, it's kind of lame. So Wisdom Keepers. And I think what's happening for me as I gave that name um, yesterday, I kind of think that some of that wisdom keeper may be something that's tapping into me this morning through some of my dreams and things. So because I couldn't do a podcast and because the writing didn't work out, we'd just like to share some of the things that came through. So while I do Akashic readings with others, I actually have quite a few experiences where I receive information, and as long as I can remember what I received, then I can share it. And this is something I would like to share. I do look at this as coming from spirit or coming from the records, and it just comes through, and it's just so beautiful. And the first visual I got on this was actually a kaleidoscope. And the kaleidoscope, if you had that as a kid, it's a little device and it's really cool, and you turn it a little bit and there's all this sacred geometry and, this beautiful shapes and different colors. And so you look into it and it's beautiful, and then you turn it again, you got a whole nother shape. So, it's very succinct how you can quickly change the view or change your the visual or change the color and the shapes and all that. And so it really got me thinking about a change of perspective. How sometimes we're real open to changing perspective, and then other times it's like a big deal to like, I can't move from this spot, you know. And then other times, like with a kaleidoscope, as a child you play with it and then you get a whole new scene and you're like, oh, I love it. And then you're like, that was my favorite one. Then you turn it and like, oh, that's my favorite one. Then every new one is a favorite one. And so it's really kind of cool to look at that perspective from the kaleidoscope. So that was the first visual that dropped in on that. And then it really talked about going in. I've got some notes here because I try to write down as much as I can after having an experience. And so it was really about like going into a deeper relaxation state. And then also, being into relaxation of the whole body, and also being open to sacred knowledge. And whatever that means for you. For me, it felt a lot like just uh, felt a lot like the kaleidoscope. I'm sorry, I just had a phone call that came in. but I have my phone turned off. Okay, so the kaleidoscope really informs us that there's that sacred knowledge, sacred geometry that comes through, and then it went into some ideas about harmony. So the harmony thing came in right after that. So just a kind of an experience with harmony, and what I got from that was so many people right now are like, they're in this position or in that one. There's so much polarity going on, and so much distinction and differences and divides and how people are with each other and that darn TV. I don't like watching that darn TV. I'm not burying my head in the sand, but God, it's just so negative. So I'm really feeling into that. What can we do with this polarity and this divide and this dichotomy that we're finding here for so many people. And so I think that's why this vision came in. So then, looking at that harmony and then looking at the possibility of interconnectedness. So just as you're playing with a kaleidoscope and changing that perspective, it changes, and then each one of those shapes and those colors kind of come together and they connect and they make a new visual. And then the child or the adult, Susie, looks at it and goes, wow, so cool. All right, so we're going to go into just a couple of different perspectives here where we're talking about the interconnectedness and how harmony shows up in our life, how it doesn't show up or how it does show up. So some people will look at the light and go, well, the light's the only way. I'm living in the light. Then you got this darkness. I'm living in the darkness. And that's, you start judging the light or judging the dark. And in truth, the information that came through this morning was that, and we all know this, without the light, there'd be no dark. Without the dark, there'd be no light, yada, yada, yada. You get that, right? So beginning to look at things as just opposites. The light is opposite from the dark, just as the dark is opposite from the light. And so as you have different opinions and things with different people, it's not that they're good or bad or anything. It's just an opposite perspective. Okay. And that's kind of what was coming through. And I never know when I'm, getting this information. And then we got into some sacred geometry with, you could say, sometimes we see in sacred geometry as the shape of the triangle. And, just seeing that maybe 2 points are, maybe one point is light and one is dark. And then one maybe at the top, or another point might be that interconnectedness, but because that union of the two. Okay. Because without one or the other doesn't exist. So there's that union that comes together. So I was really getting the picture of the triangle and the interconnectedness between the light and the dark, and also the circle that comes overlays on the triangle, which is creating that wholeness and that connection and that oneness. So that really came in really beautifully. And and I'm just doing the best I can because I want this information was so juicy to me. I hope it is for you too. So when we're looking at looking at that light and the dark, and then seeing them simply as opposites, or people's opinions just simply as opposites, there's an opportunity for people to heal and for there to be peace in a person's life when you just you know it's like giving dignity or respect to yourself or to the other person if there is a difference in opinion. And it's just, you could just say, instead of opinion or judgment, it's just, okay, you said that and I have an opposite opinion, you know and how neat that is that we can both be together and have opposite opinions. And so when we begin to really look at these distinctions between light and dark, we can really begin to embrace both, because without one there would not be the other. Let's just say somebody has an opinion about something and they're so strong about it, and then the other side is opinion they're so strong about it. If you remove one of them, then there's no skin in the game here. You know what I mean? So it's really neat to take both opinions or both distinctions, and look at them and embrace them both. Okay. And then going into that is going into deeper understanding of sacred knowledge that is here for us, available for us. And as one person awakens into a new world, then more things will be revealed. So as you begin to notice, and this is kind of maybe a long lecture, I'm kind of bringing it down, but when we are open to moving into the sacred knowledge and more information, we began to see through a whole, kind of like the kaleidoscope. You turn it again and you got another view. Turn it again, another view, another view, another view. So with that kaleidoscope in mind, just knowing that when you begin to awaken to this new information, are new ways to process information and to hold space with people, even if they have a opposite opinion or opposite perspective on something. Being able to hold space and know that there is kind of like the triangle with the circle, that there's two different opinions or perspectives, but in the middle is the union of these two people coming together, two perspectives, and the circle is the wholeness and the unity of everything. All right. So if you just, see if that fits for you, if it resonates. It really does for me. And I've been like, I need to write about it. And I just really wasn't able to for some reason. Also, when we move into this possibility of looking at the perspectives of others and our own self and changing it and shifting it, we move into a maybe a container or space of collective truth. What is true now? Okay. And also, sometimes with this polarity is we feel isolation or the illusion of separateness. And for some of you that are in a unity consciousness or Christ consciousness, we all know that we're connected. And there's these moments when we feel there's such a divide and there's this separateness. But in essence, when you really come into harmony, we realize that we are a part of the whole, meaning we are that whole presence here. And so, but there's no aloneness. Okay. But there are people who feel alone. All right. So we're going to just acknowledge that. So when you're ready to receive this information, then you start feeling more deeply connected with not only others and yourself, but with everything that's around it. Not out, like right now, I've got this window open and I've got the door open, and there's trees, there's birds. Birds are singing outside. I'm connected with all that. Little bugs are flying by, and I hear bird songs in the background. I'm connected with all of that. And just simply feeling that oneness and that wholeness by being in that experience. Then, right before I end here, I'd like for you to begin to um, be open to asking better questions about what's right for you in this moment now. So what's, better questions are might be, okay, so I feel connected with everything. I'm feeling more connected with nature, and I'm curious, what more can I experience in this nature? What more can I experience? That's pretty open, you know. Um, might I go to a new location, and is there a place that I might go to where I may be real inspired by the natural beauty, and I wonder where that might be. So we start really reframing the way we look at life, and we really start asking better questions and then listening and letting go of the question, then notice what comes up. That's a really great place to be at when we are going back to that idea of that oneness and the harmony and the peace. Okay. Also, when you go through this, you may have a feeling of feeling refreshed and feeling light by looking at these different perspectives. So going back to the kaleidoscope that started this, so the kaleidoscope is a great reminder for us, because even as little children, we didn't know we were learning lessons from the kaleidoscope. There's so many lessons between the sacred geometry that was forming and changing, and all the colors that came together and joined in to create one beautiful masterpiece, and then it's shifted and made a whole new masterpiece. And each time we saw it, we saw a new view, a new perspective, and each time we were elated with, oh my gosh, look at these colors, look at these shapes, how does it do that? You start wondering, like, how does that do that? How does that reflect, and how are those mirrors working in there? I just don't even understand, but I love it and I want to learn more. So when we look back at the childhood, when we were playing with these games and experiencing things so richly, we were really in a beautiful flow. We were open to different perspectives and to change. So, just encouraging and inviting you just to ponder that today. And if it resonates for you, groovy train. It did for me. I woke up so inspired, and then I was like, how best to express this joy I feel and this insight I feel about perspectives? And again, about polarity. So many people are in that position now. So I'm just really going to hold a beautiful sacred space for everybody that's having these feelings of, I don't know, just aloneness or feeling isolated or feeling separate. You're not. Ask better questions and listen for the answers. You have a most beautiful and blessed day.